I was wearing the dress he picked when he said the sentence that split my life in two. Chicago lights outside his windows, Grant Mercer by the glass, with a drink, voice cool as a quarterly report. I never want kids, not now, not ever. He said it like a preference, like still water versus sparkling. But I had two pink lines burning a hole in my pocket, and a prayer in my throat, so I tried to leave a door open. What if kids were already part of the equation? He didn't blink. Then, whoever's holding that equation has to choose. Me or them, say it once. And you can call it confusion. Say it twice and it's policy. I nodded like an executive who understands terms. Then I rode the elevator down and promised the two heartbeats under my hand they would never be a burden in this world. At dawn, I packed 3 suitcases, pointed the car north, and kept driving until the skyline gave up and the road went quiet. Maple Harbor found me first, a lake town with a bakery that opens at 5, a librarian who knows every dog by name, a tiny crooked porch and a walnut tree that throws shade like mercy. I taught watercolor to kids. After school, learned how to patch drywall from YouTube, and Mrs. Alvarez taped the baby's hospital bracelets into a scrapbook and wrote in shaky pen, "You are not complications. You are miracles." I named them Miles and Theo and counted time in lunchboxes. Midnight fevers, second-hand bikes that always need air. This is what survival looks like when nobody is coming to save you. You just become the person who does the saving. 5 years later, it was a Saturday in May. The school lot smelled like hot mulch and sunblock. I was running the art table, telling Miles his boats didn't have to look like anyone else's, and reminding Theo to share rinse water, because peace is a practice. I looked up, and the past walked in like a scene with no warning label jeans. Instead of a suit, sleep in his face, hope like a bruise he kept pushing, just to see if it still hurt. He didn't see me first, he saw them. And I watched Grant's eyes do the math he'd refused to do 5 years ago. The tilt of Theo's head. When he's curious, the exact blue of Miles's eyes. He stepped closer like a man who'd been chasing a mirage and finally tasted water. Theo, who's never met a stranger, said hello like he was greeting the mailman. Grant said hello back and his voice broke on the smallest word in the language. And then it was me and him again. Just like that I found you, he said. Not an apology, just relief with edges. How long, I asked. Every weekend. He said every town with a diner and a playground. Why I wanted to say you told me who you were. Clean edges, nothing sticky, nothing that wakes you at 2 a.m. He didn't push back. He just looked at our boys. Because I was wrong, he said. I've been learning it the slow way, you know what I mean? I sent the kids to show their paintings to the principal and took Grant to the fence line up close. I could read the 5 years written on him. Less sharp, more human. He talked about investigators he hired, then fired about coffee and gas station cups and hoped that wouldn't die. I talked about thrift store shoes measured by eye, about how the boys learned to whistle 3 different ways, and I told him the one lie I'd let myself keep. They know you love them, I said. They think you work very far away. He looked like I'd set a glass of water in his hands on a desert road. Thank you, he said, like gratitude hurt. We didn't get to stay in that adult space long because life sends the truth back in with paint on his hands. Theo barreled up, held out a paper with a lemon sun, and said, Miss Elena says yellow is happy, then studied Grant's face like kids do when they haven't learned to pretend. Your eyes look like my eyes, he announced, delighted by science. And he launched into Grant like a hug was his first language. The sound Grant made was half laugh, half sob. Yeah, that happened. I have a gate I never lock, because some fences should be walked through that afternoon. He stood there like a man at customs, waiting to see if the passport would scan. I opened it. The walnut tree threw shade across grass. The boys chased each other with a worm like it was a relay baton. I said the thing I couldn't say. The night I left you gave me a choice. Me or them, I said no. Them always. Them, he listened. Didn't litigate, didn't say, can we move on, he said. I was wrong, period. Sometimes that's the bravest sentence a man can offer. Then the kitchen timer beeped on the grilled cheese and life insisted we all sit down together inside. Everything looked small around him. Thrifted chairs, crayon masterpieces taped on the fridge. The change jar labeled Carnival Miles, who observes before he speaks. Slid the scrapbook on Grant's lap like a deposition. That's us, brand new, he said. And this is when I thought I could fly and broke my wrist, he said. Wrist with dignity. Theo leaned into Grant like he'd found a tall tree that felt like shade. Do you live far, far away, or just kind of far? He asked. I used to live very far, Grant said. Now I'm trying to live close. You test people without admitting you're testing. We see if they show up, if they wash paint cups without being asked. So I let reality test him. Miles wanted someone who could read in different voices. Grant did, Wolf and Grandma. So clean, the room felt bigger. Theo wanted a fort that didn't collapse when the wind pretended to be a dragon. Grant taught measure twice, cut once, how to sand splinters from the places your hands have to rest. He showed a scar on his thumb and said, this is what happens when you act like you don't have time to be careful. The town watched too. Maple Harbor notices. Kendra side-eyed him over the fence. Then softened when our trash cans started walking themselves back from the curb, and the loose porch step got fixed before I could nag. The hardware store man told me your fella knows the difference between a finishing nail and a drywall screw. Which is good, because some men don't. I didn't call him my fella yet. The night that told me who he was without his best shirt on came at 3:11 a.m. Theo went from hot forehead to inferno, the kind of fever that steals the line between sleep and panic. We did ibuprofen, cool cloths, bargaining with the ceiling. Numbers kept climbing. I called Kendra to sit with Miles. Then I called the only other person whose voice could steady my hands. He picked up on the first ring, Saint. Bridget's. I said I'm on my way, he answered. No speech, just movement. The ER at night is its own country. Lemon cleaner, tired angels in scrubs. Everything humming. Theo looked so small under the cooling blanket. A doctor with kind eyes said, viral probably high. Yes, concerning yes, we're on it. Grant held his hand like he'd been doing it forever. He didn't pace or demand or spreadsheet the feelings. He talked about the fort roof we still needed to finish, and how peaches taste when you stand over the sink and let the juice make a mess. The numbers slid down toward safe around sunrise. We carried our sleeping boy home between us. While the lake turned silver for a week, the house smelled like chicken soup and crayons. Grant learned the medicine schedule better than I did, took calls on the back steps. Spoke soft, and one quiet afternoon, he stood in my kitchen and took a breath. I could hear Elena, he said. My life used to be a skyline and a calendar that choked me the company. The board, the deals, they were my religion. I sold it. You what Stratline made an offer, I took it. I don't want a life that can't hold this table and that fort. I laughed a tired sound. I didn't know lived in me you can't buy your way into fatherhood, I said. I'm not trying to, he said. I'm clearing space so I can do the work. We were not a couple, and not a couple. Boundaries are scaffolding. He moved into the guest room, showed up daily. No grand speeches, just dishes. No roses, just peonies planted under the window. Because he Googled which flowers come back on the twins' 6th birthday. The backyard looked like the inside of a happy thought after the last kid was picked up and the last juice pouch got flattened. Light strings made constellations in the walnut tree Grant took. That same audible breath knelt. Not like a movie star, like a man who knows. Some things are higher, the boys flanked him. Like security, he opened a small box with a ring that looked like it had a past and a future. Elena Lopez Cruz, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving the worst words I ever said were not the truest thing about me, Theo whispered. You have to say yes, because I told Mrs. Alvarez, we're practicing being a ring person. I looked at the man who broke me, and then learned how to hold the pieces while I put myself back together, looked at the boys who draw our family, with 4 stick figures and a fat orange cat we don't even own yet. Looked at the house that smells like cinnamon and sawdust and belongingness, I said. And my voice didn't shake. The boys cheered like the home team hit a walk-off. We danced badly in the grass. And for an hour the world let us have good news without a bill attached. That's not the end. Not if you want the truth. Tuesdays still get syrup on the floor. Wednesdays still bring arguments about shoes because shoes are tyranny. Thursdays still make me flinch at sirens. Then remember, he's here Fridays. He snores and I poke him, and he says sorry without waking up. The win isn't the ring or the house or the Instagram version of family. It's that I am not small anymore. I am not the woman in silk waiting for permission to want what she wants. I chose my sons when choosing them cost me everything. I thought I needed, then I chose myself, then I chose carefully. And with eyes open, the man who chose us back, that's my ending for now. And here's the part that might start a fight in the comments. Some folks in town still side-eye the way he walked in after 5 years and got to be dad. Some say selling a company is just a fancy apology, and apologies don't buy back birthdays. You missed. I get it. Change is real, but so are consequences, so tell me. If you were me, would you forgive a man who said, I never want kids and proved it? Then spent 5 years learning how wrong he was. Where's the line between boundaries and bitterness, between grace and gullibility? Drop your take below. Tell me if I made the right call. Share the time someone surprised you by becoming better, or the time you had to walk away because they didn't. And if this put a hand on your shoulder today, hit like so it finds the next person who needs it. Subscribe for the next chapter. Send this to a friend who thinks they're too broken to build something that lasts. The fort in the backyard doesn't leak anymore.